Call your sponsor.
Call you sponsor. Call you sponsor.
Call you
sponsor. Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor.
Welcome back to Bitch Call Your Sponsor. I'm Sam.
And I'm Misty.
Hello.
Hello, Sam.
Shall we do our primary purpose?
Yes. Our primary purpose is for Misty
and Sam
to grow their
friendship
and maybe
help others. So the topic that I am bringing to us today is wisdom. And I have a definition here. The quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. The quality of being wise. And the reason why I think the stuff that's been coming up for me this week is, the elder statesman versus the bleeding deacon. Or, the long timer versus the old crusty old timer. And I think, as I grow in my sobriety and in recovery and on the spiritual path, I have been capable of being like the grumpy or, the why, and like how to stay balanced, I see it in others more so than I see it in myself. And I think through the lens of like humility and knowing oneself and honest with oneself there's a clear distinction, So I'll leave it there and see if anything's resonating for you.
Well, I mean, we're talking about wisdom, so of course. Where do I begin, Sam? I really, really like this topic. The first thing I thought of was this woman in Dallas at one of our meetings, and her name, I really want to say her last name, but I won't. She's passed on, but she used to say her first and last name. I'll just say her first, which was Joanne. And she had so much time, and we all came in there all new, and she would tell this really colorful story. And by the way, she was just this elegant gray-haired woman in her late 70s. Just tell these colorful stories. She had so much time. We were all just obsessed with her. And what she would say in the meetings is, you only go through the steps one time, you never do them again. And so we were doing these step workshops, and she was, criticizing everyone. This is so silly. Why do you do this? You only go through the steps one time. You don't ever go through them again. And then she decided to take one of those workshops. And she said she got so much out of it. And she got her chip that year and said, I can't believe I've been saying in here for the last however many years, you only go through the steps once. And I got so much out of it. And I'm glad that I did that. And I think that's the difference between a bleeding deacon and a long timer, is that you're willing to question, you're willing to ask yourself questions, you're willing to do something new, you're willing to think that you may not know everything.
Wow, I love this story, and R.I.P. Joanne or Joanna, whatever her name is. Yeah, for me, I guess it's like humility. It's like this honesty, and it's because I can get to that point of, I know how to get sober. I know what you need, I know my experience. I don't know what has worked for me thus far. I think I do, at least. And some of it is still questionable, right? And so it's like, I think it's where it's I know versus this is my experience is like a clear distinction,
That is so good. And when I was out there drinking, they called me Little Miss Can't Be Wrong. That was my nickname. And you and I have talked about how I'm such a bull in the china shop. And I'm in that phase right now where I know everything. Why don't people listen to me? I have all the answers. And what I know now about the past and my experience with this phase, and that's why I always say I get the right to change my mind 2 years, 2 minutes, 2 weeks from now, because I know that it's evolving and changing, and whatever I think I know, I don't know. And, it's like thinking, it's like being in a dirt, just a dirt circle, right? You're in a dugout dirt circle that you do with your hands. And you're sitting there going, I'm in the biggest cavern in all of the United States, versus like being in the Grand Canyon and saying, I'm in the biggest cavern in all of the United States. Like, and even then, maybe you don't know. That's what it is. And I had 4 months and I had scooped out a hole in the earth, stood in it, and said, I'm in the biggest hole in the United States.
I totally identify with that. I remember sharing with, I don't know, and I know time is not a tool, and it's also, I guess the reason why I actually brought this up was because I remember, okay, so 2 things. One is I remember I don't know, I had 2 years and I knew everything, but I was like landing like I was still curious, but in my brain I was like, I'm gonna teach. I'm gonna show you. Like, this is a recovered individual,
Oh my God.
and this is how I did it, and I can help you.
You're
Right.
welcome.
And I guess I found myself, the one thing that I found myself remembering in my share, one of my shares this week, was that the long timers, there's so much wisdom. And after I was hearing people share, and then I was like, oh no, wisdom can come from anywhere. I just need to be open.
Yeah.
I for some reason I'm finding myself like a size, like like the gays are sometimes size queens. Like I'm becoming a time queen sometimes more recently,
What does
where
that mean? What does that mean?
like, so size queen is like when
Oh,
you're gay,
yeah.
it's
I
like
know
the
size
size of,
queen. Oh,
a
yeah.
member.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
time queen is like more time is more sobriety, like more wisdom, and I found
Oh,
myself
gotcha.
being a time queen. When I rewind what I remember, it's like, oh, I was legit being a time queen, being like, all those 40 plus people in here, like, yeah, and it's like, yes, and there's wisdom from everyone. Why am I singling out these people? Like, why am I putting them on a pedestal or whatever?
That
Um,
is hysterical. Okay, jumping in. That is
yeah.
so funny. When you were like time queen, I didn't know if that meant the longer they shared, the more they had, or they were more wrong, or I didn't know. But Mama knows what a size queen is. Okay. And this is what I love, is this is one place where you and we meet, right? Like the can't be wrong, the false humility. I love it. That's how I was. I mean, I walked in, but I didn't even try and hide it at 4 months sober. I thought I knew what was best for everyone. I was following people out of the rooms going, you know what you should do about this, I didn't even know enough to know that I should try and hide it. And then it got to the point where everything I thought I knew was upended and so on. And then also I remember sitting in a room and feeling like I knew everything, like I do in every single meeting that I'm in, more than anyone else in that room. And this girl with like 6 months said the most profound thing I'd ever heard. And I was like, oh, okay. There's so much to learn when I'm open.
So one of my meetings literally says the set aside prayer, help me set aside everything I think I know about blah 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 blah, which I love. And I don't actually think it's a prayer that's in the big book as far as I know.
No.
And I don't know where its origin came from, but then again, like the step 2 prayer is not really we ask God, and then here's the step 2 prayer. Like it is like with the step 3 prayer was like, here's the step 3 prayer, But I do love the essence of this, continuing to stay open and setting aside everything I think. And how can I do that in everyday living? I think part of me is in that space of like, no, this is especially me. I'm like the rigid, like, no, this is how we've done it. So why change it? It works, and so it's that constant reminder and this, continually practicing being fluid, which is kind of uncomfortable for me over time.
Hell yeah, that's uncomfortable. Hell yeah, that's uncomfortable. I want to be a queen that knows everything and can trust my judgment and all my experiences instead of always being on loose terra firma, which I'm not. There's some sort of terra firma in never having terra firma. Right? So it's like get comfortable being uncomfortable is the way to be comfortable. And I did one of our episodes today, shout out to one of our favorite listeners, won't even name, but I received like a 2-paragraph text after one of our episodes last week. Love this queen. And I immediately call and try and give all my solutions. And and I even now have the wherewithal to say, like, take what you want and throw out the rest. I have no care or concern if you go with what I say or don't go with what I say. But I do. Oh, and another person called me this week, and it was almost like hearing myself before I went to ACA, Sam, because this is what I've noticed about people with trauma in the rooms with really long-term sobriety who don't do what you're talking about, which is be humble and look to see where they might still be wrong, and this is what I was doing, so shade to me. I kept having these loops of experiences, and I would get very defensive if anyone challenged me on it. And someone reached out to me this week, and anytime I tried to, I always ask, do you want my experience, strength, and hope with a friend before I give any feedback? And when I would, they would go, no, I'm doing so much better than I was before. And I'm like, that's not what we're talking about. Like, no one's saying you're not doing better. We're talking about this situation, and we're talking about experience, strength, and hope in this situation. And they're just like, no, but I rarely ever do this. And it's like, wait, no one's judging you, honey. It was just so interesting to hear somebody with so much time and recognize the loop. And when I was talking about this, the growth I've had in ACA, they kept saying, yeah, no, this is just my personality. It's just my personality. And I was like, okay, personal reality.
I wish it's a different program, but anyway, I almost think it's like, could they all be combined to just all get redirected to ACA? Because I found so much relief and connection from the tools in that program,
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of it, is that if you're open, it's exactly what you're talking about in this episode. If you're open and willing, you will seek it and it will be there for you. But no way should everybody just be directed to it, because it's only going to work on those people who are seeking it.
Yeah, true. I just think I know better. Anyway, the thing that's coming up is this humility piece, right? Is that I think like it all boils down to 2 words for me, is where's God? And I love playing the role of God, thinking I know best, versus me being related to a higher power and connected to one. There's like for me that's like the clear distinction. I just I pulled this up because this was the reading, the daily reflections today. I frequently ask God to help me understand how I separated myself from him. Fill in the words that make sense for you. But for me, it's a separation from myself, right? Where am I disconnected, disassociated, thinking it's outside or somewhere else? And because it's from within, right? It's the wisdom. I keep going back to that fortune cooking thing you did with, within me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We have everything we need within us, but it doesn't mean we should not keep seeking. It's like this perpetual conundrum. Are you ready for me to blow your mind?
I'm ready. I'm here.
Okay, I heard this and it was of the New York Times TikTok. No, just it was TikTok.
Like, wait, the Times House is on the TikTok.
When you hear me say
New York Times is on the TikTok.
when you hear me say I heard this in the New York Times, what that is translates to is TikTok. This guy said this. Okay, I'm just going to say it. You tell me. He said that when you dream, Sam, you have all these characters, right, in your dream. Does that ring true?
So when I dream, me, Sam, I have characters in my dream. Okay, when I remember my dreams, yes, there are definitely different things happening in there.
Okay, great. The different things that are happening, do you know that those are all you in your mind?
So I'm glad you're saying this because I remember hearing this somewhere, not on the TikTok or the New York Times, but it's very, very fascinating, this idea. So do you, just to take a back step, I don't remember, I vaguely remember dreams. I know I dream, but it's very rare that I remember it. Do you remember dreams?
No, I'm in the same camp as you. Very rarely. Now, I have done times in my life where I've made a concentrated effort to have the pen and the paper and everything right then and there and do it immediately when I wake up. And when I go to sleep at night, being diligent about remembering the dreams and doing that as a mantra. And yeah, that has worked during those times, but it's a lot of work. And I usually just go, whatever. I'll remember whatever I'm supposed to remember.
Yeah. Because I actually, go ahead.
When this guy said this, I did have a sense of I'm the person, I know on a certain level, I'm the person of the character of all these characters that are in my dreams. I know that it's a scene. I'm somehow a part of each one, right? And they were saying, okay, now do this on a bigger scale. Someone is above you doing that. Like, that's what we all are. And put in those terms, it really does this thing of we are all one. We are all one. We are all one. We are this God that is seeing itself in different forms because it can't experience any contrast without being in these different forms.
Okay, so I am wondering, is this the same thing, like everyone is a mirror and is really just me?
Yeah.
Like every relationship I have is a relationship with myself. Is that the same?
Yeah. And
right?
that you're calling every relationship.
Call
your
your sponsor.
sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call you sponsor.
Call your
sponsor. Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor.
Send us an email with comments, questions, or concerns, bcysponsor@gmail.com.
Don't forget to rate 5 stars.